Welcome to Tales, Tunes, and Tomfoolery starring Jerry Springer, along with Gene Galvin and me. I'm Megan Hills. We're recorded live in front of a brilliant studio audience at the Folk School Coffee Parlor in Ludlow, Kentucky.
My daddy came home.
And here he is, ladies and gentlemen, the one and thankfully the only, Jerry Springer.
Yeah. Oh.
I'm just teasing.
Yeah, no, I would love to have like a mini me.
That would be frightening.
That would be frightening.
There is a bobblehead, isn't there?
Yeah.
There is a bobblehead, which is anatomically correct.
Well, that's scary. Hey, speaking of bobbleheads, we got some emails from listeners.
Yes.
That I wanted to go over, and by the way, I do, Megan, what's called a rip and read. I really don't vet these because I know our listeners are awesome.
Rip and read. That's from
old
my
school,
generation.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a radio news.
Yeah, how do you rip and read on your fancy
I'm reading
cell
them
phone?
off my phone here, but I haven't
Okay.
pre-read them. Anyway, first one. Let's see. Bobby Talon from Boise, Idaho.
Thanks
I love
for listening,
Idaho. I'm going
Bobby.
there this summer. He says, I listen to the podcast for one reason. Megan. Well, that's
Oh,
interesting.
that's sweet.
Oh, what's that about?
And then he says, by the way, is she really an HR officer?
Yes.
She, in fact, is.
I am.
And he goes on to say, I wish the place where I worked had someone like her. That's a nice,
that's
it's a nice
super
email.
sweet.
This is from Karen Fucito from Fargo, North Dakota. And she says here, I visited relatives in the Cincinnati area recently and asked them to take me to Ludlow, Kentucky, so I could ride the Ludlow city bus that you all talk about all the time.
Gene's place of employment.
You're in trouble now.
I thought a selfie on it would be fun for Instagram. We got to Ludlow, and I went to the city administration building, and they said that they never heard of the Ludlow City Bus Company.
Weird.
That's a little problem.
There isn't one?
Well, she claims
been saying the whole- well, wait,
there
for
is one.
almost a full year.
So this is to you, Karen. You went to the wrong Ludlow, Kentucky. We're the one adjacent to the Creationism Museum. You know that, Megan. The Creationism Museum's down the road.
Really?
Sure. Oh, yeah. You didn't know that?
No, I really didn't.
Oh, for real. Like right
Yeah,
there
we'll
in
have to
Kentucky.
take Jerry,
We're like
'cause
20 miles
he
away.
needs-
Oh, they'll want me in there.
Okay, this is from
Yeah,
Tyrone.
it's a
Last
real
one.
situation.
But they'll at least admit you were not created. That's what they'll say to me.
Okay, I'm sure they'll say that you weren't created in the image and likeness of God, which is what we learn in
Correct.
Catholic
As
catechism.
Catholics, right?
Hey,
Yeah.
by the way,
Lots
Tyrone
of fires.
Billings from Kansas City writes, I listen to your podcast live when I'm on the treadmill. I like it except for one thing. Oh, there's got a complaint here. Oh, listen to this. Why can't Mr. Springer be held to the same responsibility as other entertainers for coming up with fresh material? Right on. That's exactly what Megan and I have been
to
saying.
agree with that.
He
Who wrote
says,
that?
Well,
Hey, wait a second.
everyone clapping?
Listen to this. He says, I've heard the same hearing aid joke in 7 episodes.
First of all, they were only in 6.
No, I think he's got right.
Well, he
the
doesn't
7.
have good hearing. That's why he
Oh, I got it.
here
Hey,
we
by
go.
the way,
Yes, what?
here's what I think, and I've been saying this on a lot of episodes.
Yeah.
You have a personal assistant.
Yep.
How many people in this room have a personal assistant? No hands have gone up. Not Megan's, not mine. No one in the audience. You have a personal assistant. By the way, I have talked to her many times. She is wonderful.
She'd have to be.
Her name is Jene. I'm just
Yeah.
going to give her first name. I don't want anybody to try to track her down.
Yeah.
She's a wonderful young woman,
she's
very
wonderful.
professional.
Yeah. You haven't
I'm
met
going to
the-
pass this phone number over to David Pruce of Ambient Studios, our technical producer
gonna talk
who's
to
here.
her?
You're gonna-
David,
she's
if
on the
you
line?
wouldn't mind calling her, well, we got to get her on
She's
the phone.
supposed to be working at the office. What
And
do you mean?
if I
Don't
want to do
interrupt her.
something. I want to ask her when he gets her on the phone.
Oh, you can't be.
If she could help us, Megan, would you agree for the
Oh,
sake
I
of
would
our
beg
listeners?
her.
We need help.
We'll
need
throw
help.
money at this problem if we have to. It needs to change.
She on? She's got her.
we have her on the line now.
Jenna, how you doing?
Hi, Gene. I'm good. How are you?
She's a real nice. You hear that? She's
Yeah.
a very
Hi,
nice.
Megan.
Yeah. You should meet the flight attendants I have on my plane.
Oh, my
Oh, no.
God.
No.
Jeez.
Hey,
Hey,
Jenna.
Jenna. Yeah. You don't have to answer any question from Gene you don't want to.
Jenna, we're here to help him. This is all in the spirit of helping us in the show and everything. And so if you could give us any assistance, we'd be very grateful.
Hey, Jenna, can I ask you a question? You
Anything.
have a great job. I know you do. You do, don't you? I'm sure you'd be the first to say.
Oh my gosh, the best.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, of course, because pay week's coming up.
Yeah, right. Hey, Jenna, and your job description, I'm sure, is stuff like,
Well, Gene, most people manage calendars, make sure, schedules and meetings all align. A big part of my job is laughing at Jerry's jokes.
Well, and it's like,
Is there a
and it's
bonus
like
structure
canned laughter.
associated with that, Jenna?
Don't say
That's good,
She
Jenna.
laughs on her own. It's not a...
Is that at you or
Is that really in the job description?
Yeah, I think it-
Yeah,
I do-
Jerry, it's in the contract you made me sign.
yeah, that's right.
Well, yeah, but we don't have to. But it's true because when people were, I was interviewing people who would have that position.
Right.
They must have been told that because everyone who came in for an interview was just laughing and laughing.
That would have been an interesting interview
It was great.
process.
Oh, hi, Mr. Springer.
Hey, when
Yeah.
you tell people, Jenna, that you're a personal assistant, and then it comes to, well, who are you a personal assistant for? Because I can imagine you could say, I'm the luckiest young woman in the world, I'm a personal assistant for a celebrity. And then you tell them it's Jerry Springer. Do you get good reaction, laughs? How's that play?
It's a mix, but it's usually.
What do you mean it's a mix?
She can hear you, Jenna.
A mix?
Keep talking, Jenna.
That is...
No, what kind? So you get
horrible.
a little bit of you get various reactions. Is that what you're saying?
Various reactions, for
Cool.
sure.
Hey,
Well, wait, you never told me that.
We want to hear some of this.
Oh, all I get is,
I
boy,
mean,
that person really
only
likes you. What?
Positive reactions, Jerry.
all positive,
but
Jerry.
everyone is shocked. Everyone's like, "What is he like?"
Because
And I'm
you
like,
seem
"He's
like a
the
normal
nicest."
person.
He is the
Always.
nicest. He
Hey,
is the
Jenna,
nicest.
where did you come from? Do you live near where the show is? But where were you schooled, etc.?
I grew up in Connecticut, and I went to school in Virginia.
Nice.
And did you
Yeah.
ever, in your wildest dreams, think that this would be your dream job, Jenna?
When I was growing up and Jerry Springer was on and a parent walked in the room, I had to change the channel so fast. So never in a million years did I think I would have the pleasure of working for Mr. Springer.
Oh, that is great.
She
Hey,
She did one Springer folks in, and I was real nervous. Yeah,
on your best
but they
behavior.
were
Hey,
lovely
Jenna,
people.
look, help us out, please. Can't you, at the request, please, of Megan and me, get him some legal jokes? They're all public domain. That's what we call those, right? I mean, just get some jokes off the internet and feed them to him. Here's what we're dealing with, Jerry. Do your best joke.
Just do
the
it. Just
hearing
be done
aid
with
joke.
it. Dear God.
Well, no, I'm when I fly into town, I stay at a hotel downtown, room 743, and and I'm at this hotel, and well, I guess I can tell you, last night. Oh my God!
Well, they're
found
coming
out.
for you. Yeah.
No,
They're here.
what's the sirens? No, for I'll say an hour. I may be exaggerating a little bit, but it seemed like for an hour, this beautiful woman is banging on my hotel door.
You kidding?
Yeah, well, finally I let her out. But it was just unbelievable. Well, thank you very much. Oh my God.
That wasn't
I've
Cleveland.
never-
That wasn't Miami. That wasn't
No,
the
that
hearing
was good.
aid.
I've never told that on this show.
I don't know.
Oh,
Jenna, that's what we're dealing with. See, he does, Jenna, what he does is all the warm-up jokes for the Jerry Springer TV show. That's what he does. He doesn't even.
And he just recycles them.
Yes, that's what he does.
recycles.
But look,
Yeah.
if you could just look up a joke for him and then write it out. But here's what you're going to have to do, right, Megan? It has to be real big fonts.
Oh, Jenna.
Yeah, really large.
so you
print.
guys can read it.
Yeah.
So
You
can
know what,
read it.
Jenna? We'll just exchange emails. We'll just cut them out of this. Take care of this real quick.
Perfect. Megan, we'll chat later.
I like it. I
Hey,
like
Jenna,
it.
thank you very much.
Jenna, you're the
We're
best.
counting on you now,
Yeah.
okay?
Oh my God.
Are you
I
at the
won't- I won't let you down, guys.
All right.
Thank you, Jenna. Are you at the office?
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
All right, Jenna, you could become
You're
a
the best.
regular here. Thank you. See ya.
Thanks.
Let's
Bye,
hear it for Jenna, Jerry's
Oh.
personal assistant.
She really
All
is
right.
great. She's excellent. Yeah, she really is.
She's actually very cool. And
How long
and
has she
I,
been your assistant?
I don't know. You were asking questions I never knew. No, she was cute. I hired her. I didn't know. No. See, I did. That's
Come on
not
now.
true.
No,
Testing 1 2 1 2.
Well, she might also be.
When I
cute, but
walked in here, this is true.
What happened?
Well, Ludlow. This is lovely community.
Lovely.
But, parts of it.
A little sketchy, you're saying?
There's this woman outside.
Oh my God.
Really?
He's
Yeah.
gonna do it.
Yeah, and just kind of leaning up against the wall. And as I walk out, she says, "Psst, Mr. Springer." And I go, "What?" She says, "I'll do anything for $50."
Oh no.
I said, "Paint my house."
No, yeah. Oh, see, that
was-
sucked.
That was so
wasn't-
bad.
Well, for $50?
No, that wasn't.
That wasn't even
good.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, tell the
What?
Miami story. I'd
You know
rather hear
what?
that.
Jerry,
No, honestly, my wife and I, we've been happy for 20 years. And then we met. And
you know what? This is new material.
Yes.
I'm on a roll now.
You know, and
gotta
here's the
stop this.
difference between us. I don't do jokes. I don't try to make people laugh. I've prided myself throughout my life of just keeping my head down and just trying to be meaningful. So I don't do jokes. But I was just saying, my grandson Trey.
Oh, what?
I was talking to him
Yeah,
just today
'cause you don't do
I was
jokes.
driving him to practice, and he told me something that happened in school. He goes to a Catholic school, and he says, "Man, we went into the cafeteria today, and we got there, and it's Catholic school, St. Aloysius, and we got to the cafeteria table, and there was a pile of apples, and Mother Margaret, the principal, and you can relate to this, Megan, because you went to Catholic
I
school.
did.
Yes.
And Mother Margaret had written a note, and it said, "Children, take only one. God is watching." Ooh. And boy, if you've gone to Catholic schools, you don't mess with Mother Margaret of the school, whoever that is, the principal.
Nor with God watching.
So Trey went farther down the table, and there was a whole pile of cookies. And Trey said to his buddy, "Take all you want, because God's watching the apples." So, now see, what I do, Megan,
You
is
weave a story.
come in and tell true stories. It might amuse somebody, maybe, I don't know. Now, let me give you an insight into Jerry
I'm
Springer.
going to come up with jokes one week. I swear to God.
Before, it's not hard.
Clearly.
Hey, before we called Jene, and
Yes.
I've talked to Jerry because I'm the producer of Tales, Tunes, and Tomfoolery, and I have a production meeting weekly, and I bring in the crew, Jerry and Megan, and I have to admonish them at times.
Never been to a production
Excuse
meeting.
me. I haven't been to one meeting
Really?
of this. We've
We
been
show
on for
up 5
years.
minutes
There's
before
been
this
no
thing goes
meeting.
on.
I haven't been to one meeting.
By the way, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
True. Show up 5
So
minutes.
far, I'm real happy.
Yeah, it's really
Because if
good.
the meetings are anything like this,
I know.
this is a total waste of time.
Well, this is. Here are some jokes Jerry submitted to me that he wanted to do on the podcast. He has been doing some research. And we now I've hired a censor, Denise Compton from Podcast Watch. And now the material goes through Miss Compton.
Wow.
And these are the jokes that Denise Compton told me Jerry wanted to do, and she scratched out in black magic marker the joke, and she just left the punchlines. The jokes apparently are unspeakable. I know there's no low we could get to in which these jokes would be appropriate. And here are the punchlines. The first one, Jerry Springer submitted this. The punchline is, "That will never fit. I can tell by looking." That is, that joke is not a... Megan, I don't know the rest of the joke, but I know from that.
No.
You can't do
Moving
that
on
joke.
along.
You can't do that joke, Jerry. Why did you think that was going to
Nope,
work?
your HR representative is saying nope.
No. Well, yeah. Here's another one. How far's the old log in? That's actually a real joke.
Where did you find that?
Oh my God.
Gene's going to die.
But Megan, it's spelled INN. You know how far down the road is that place called?
Oh my God.
Oh.
I swear.
Oh my God.
Unraveling.
It's horrible.
Here's the final one.
I hope God's watching the apples.
Yeah. Here's the final one. Jerry Springer submitted this joke, the punchline of which is, "That can't be my wife. She's in Cleveland." Now, see, and that is a joke that you do.
We've been married 42 years, and obviously we have moments of intimacy.
Hey, hold on, before you finish it.
It's so bad.
great
This
way
is
to
so
say it.
awful.
Does Mickey know you tell this
No.
joke and set it up like that? We have moments of
No,
intimacy.
she thinks I'm bowling tonight. I don't tell her. I've got a podcast. Are you
She doesn't
crazy?
even know, does she?
She doesn't know we have a podcast. Oh my gosh.
Dear Lord.
Oh no. But-
Anyway, so you were saying?
well, she likes it, and that's not unusual. She loves to talk during sex. You know, I mean, last night she called me from Cleveland.
But there it is.
Yeah,
An
there
oldie
it
but a
is.
goodie.
Yeah, that's the one we expected. That's the one we were waiting for.
Better than those.
That's true. Oh my God.
Nope.
Hey, Jerry.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think we
We're
should
still
be
gonna do
doing
this
a
tonight.
podcast in which we make fun of stuff so much.
And by stuff,
we
we
would
mean
do
Jerry.
better if we tried to help the world and educated people.
Well, that would be taking my show off the air. It's the best thing
So I wanted to ask you and we're now live, so we have people listening live now and others who are listening in the archive versions.
Honey, I'm bowling.
Yeah. So the way you do this, if you go to our website, and we're doing some revamping of the front page, and you can already listen live now, and there's a listen live button, but we're going to set this up a little differently where you can see what the dates are when the live podcasts are happening. There's a whole string of Tuesdays here in the near future in which they're happening. So they start at 7:30 in the evening Eastern time. And tonight, as we're doing this, is the night of primaries for, let's see if I get these right, Jerry, but we've got Hawaii, Mississippi, Michigan, and there have been a lot of debates. And you and I were talking once about debates, and you had a very interesting take on how presidential debates work and what they may mean or not mean.
Well,
Why don't you share that?
obviously, when we look at the ratings, people are watching the debates. So this is not an argument for not watching the debates. And this is not just in this election year, any election year. Debates have nothing to do with what kind of president you will ultimately be. And the reason for that, it's not just the answers that the candidates give. The fault lies initially with the questions that are asked. And what I mean by that is, in every single debate, the questions are always about a particular issue. You know, paraphrasing, where do you stand on funding Planned Parenthood? Should America have made a deal with Iran on nuclear weapons? And the candidate will, of course, spout a memorized answer, what his or her position is, appealing to the constituency that they're trying to appeal to. And we get it. And then, of course, if you like that answer, you clap, and if you don't like the answer, well, I'm not voting for that, whatever. And that's all we get. Year after year, debate after debate. But that has nothing to do with what kind of president you will be. Two reasons. First of all, can you imagine being asked a question, the candidate being asked a question, and then the candidate saying, can I get back to you on that? I want to meet with my staff, with my advisors, with some experts, and try and get a good answer to that. You'd be laughed off the stage. The headline would be, he blew it, whatever. And yet, there is never a question that a president has to answer within a minute and a half. And if any president answers a question in a minute and a half, then obviously no thought has been put into it. So that's the first thing. The skill we're asking for has nothing to do with what you do as a president, when you listen to all the advice, when you sleep on it, when you think of it. Even missiles take 15 minutes to come over, So, back in the days we were worried about the Soviet Union, what do we do? Even there, you have more than a minute and a half. So the first thing is, the skill of having a quick answer that makes a great headline, that maybe he'll have a funny joke. That's the skill that is measured. You know, if we had a president who stuttered, could never be elected. You had a president that had, in fact, the other day, I saw people commenting on Hillary Clinton's voice, that it's too high or grating. Have you ever read about Lincoln's voice? Never, by today's standards, would ever have been elected. He had a very high, squeaky voice. And, you know, he wasn't the best looking guy in the world. And, you know, when he got a beard, he started to look, you know, whatever. But in other words, all the things we measure in a debate or in a candidate today have nothing to do with your ability to be a great leader. So that's number one, okay? The idea that you got to get an answer in a minute and a half and you can't talk to your advisors and come up with a well thought out answer. Two, and this is the bigger issue. The questions regard a particular issue every time. But in the real world, a president never has to deal with issues in isolation. What I mean by that is, it's never in a vacuum. You've got many things on the plate at the same time. So, for example, you could ask, let's say, Ted Cruz, where do you stand on funding Planned Parenthood? And he'd say, don't fund it. You could ask him then, Mr. Cruz, Senator Cruz, where do you stand on America having a deal with Iran on nuclear weapons? Well, he shouldn't have signed that deal. Okay, now you got his positions. But as president, that wouldn't be the issue. What if the issue was to get a vote, let's say, for repealing Obamacare? But in order to get that vote that'll put it over the top, you've got to agree to back off the defunding of Planned Parenthood. What would you do? That's what a real president has to deal with. Sometimes to get the vote that you need on a major issue, you got to make a deal on some other vote that is important to you. That's the real test, isn't it? I want to ask Senator Cruz, if getting the vote on repealing Obamacare would require you to agree to fund Planned Parenthood by the senators whose vote you needed, would you be willing to make that deal? He would sweat, and he would have to tell one of his constituencies, I'd probably have to back off Planned Parenthood. Or, knowing him, well, I might have to back off on repealing Obamacare. That would give the American people an idea of what our presidents do. Why do you think there's a revolt over all these years in the Republican Party? It's because the Republican presidents could never deliver on the cultural issues, starting with Nixon, who could never, no matter what he promised the right wing on the cultural issues, he could never really go with them because it was a bigger priority dealing with China and Russia and the Soviet Union. And with Reagan, the god of conservative thought in today's world, he couldn't deliver on the cultural issues because he had a priority elsewhere. And the same with Bush. When Bush said, read my lips, the first Bush, 41, no new taxes, he had to back off on that. The Republican electorate, the conservative electorate, is so ticked off because in the real world, the candidates they support, even though they said they're with them on that issue, always backed off those cultural issues because they never were as important to the president as some of the other issues you really have to deal with when you're president, which is world peace, war, things like that. And that is what, at some point, we have got to see. What brought this to mind is I remember taking the bar exam for Ohio back in 1969. And when you took the bar exam then, I confess I don't know what the exam is like today, but it was all essays. And you have a half hour for each hypothetical fact situation, but there were many issues involved in the question. It was a real-life situation, and you had to deal with several issues. Imagine if you gave presidential candidates 30 hypothetical situations. Print the situations in every newspaper, on every website, and so every American gets to see. Read that hypothetical situation. I just gave you one now with the Obamacare and Planned Parenthood. And then have the candidates give a written response. They can think about it as long as they want, because in real life they would. They'd be dealing for weeks on these issues. And see, then you'd be able to measure, when the chips are down, is this candidate going to really fight for the things that are most important for our country or most important to me or what have you? That makes sense, not the circus we have today where the debates are a game show. Colin Powell, made reference to me and said, because I had made some comment about the last Republican debate, when Rubio and Trump were going back and forth with each other on the size of their organs and who peed in his pants or whatever. And I said two things. I said, if you're going to do my show, you should pay me, which was my major interest. And secondly, they should run a crawl at the bottom of the screen during the debate. This is not a campaign for junior high school president. Then Colin Powell was referring. He says, if Jerry Springer thinks this is too crazy, it's crazy. Yeah, he did say it.
Your parents would be proud if they were.
Oh, they'd be so proud. But anyway, so that is the point I'm making. The truth is, the debates, by definition, by the way they run them, it is a game show, even if you don't make crass junior high school jokes. It's a game show. Can you give a quick answer with a quip in a minute and a half to a world problem that world leaders have been dealing with for, if you're talking about the Middle East, for thousands of years? No, you got to have an answer in a minute and a half. How can you ask a question about the Middle East? That is why, however these candidates do in the debates, just for your own peace of mind, realize that's not telling you what kind of president they will make, he or she will make.
That's good stuff. I think that's, when I sit and listen to analysis that you do, and I've always admired it. I've told you that over the years. I think how puny my life is by comparison. I mean, what comes to my mind, Megan, is I was going to just say one thing, and we're going to bring on
We could be here for a
Easy
while.
Tom Eby to do some music. But my cousin Mike, and I told you this the other week, was in the Cloister Monastery for 21 years, and he quit.
Yeah.
And my cousin Mike, though,
I hate you
had
so
to go to a
much.
doctor
You went to a doctor?
because he wasn't feeling well.
Oh,
The doc says, Mike, you have 10. He sat him down. He was very, just settle down. I have to tell you something that's going to be pretty stunning, but you have 10 to live. And my cousin freaked and said, 10? What, months, weeks, days? And he said, well, now you're down to 9.
And then what did he say?
No, that was pretty much
that was
I
that was
hate
pretty
you.
much
I
what he
hate you
said?
so
That-
much.
That is what he
You disgust me.
So like a minute,
well,
You disgust
10
me.
minutes away. Hey, Easy Tom, Eby, we're going to bring up to the mic
Yes.
right now.
yeah.
Woohoo!
All right, let's go.
Hey, whoa!
Easy Tom, by the way, is going to be accompanied by Steve Meyer, who plays harmonica, and got Easy Tom Eby on guitar, local songwriter and performer. And we'd like to ask you first, Easy Tom, if you would start us off with a song.
Sure. This is what I call my gospel rock, but these guys call it drunken gospel because I play in bars a lot. And it is a sing-along song. You'll catch on to the chorus. And we got Casey
All right,
Campbell.
Casey Campbell, our music coordinator,
Now.
Casey up here.
joining on the washboard. Little percussion here.
You haven't
yeah.
finished your wash, have you?
And it goes a little bit like this. looking for relief after walking the same old streets. I took a walk through the riverbank trees. I saw an old man sitting on a stump, and he's singing, if you please, why don't you lay a button down? Why don't you lay a button down? No need to carry it around. Why don't you lay a button down? I was looking for relief after walking the same old streets. I took a walk through the riverbank trees. I saw an old man sitting on a stump, and he's singing, if you please, why don't you lay a button down? Why don't you lay a button down? No need to carry it around. Why don't you lay a button down? This is where we clap it out together. Why don't you lay a button down? Why don't you lay a button down? No need to carry it around. Why don't you lay a burden down?
Yeah. Easy Tom Eby, accompanied by Steve Meyer on the harmonica. Hey, Easy Tom, you play in a lot of bars, you said earlier. Yes. And that probably is the situation of a lot of songwriters and performers in roots music all over the country, right?
Oh, yeah.
And is that ultimately the best place to play, or is it a mixed bag? Tell us a little bit, maybe some bar stories of playing music over the years.
Playing bars is fun. The ones that have food, it's a little bit more fun.
Yeah.
I played in bars a lot, but I never learned an instrument.
There you go. But no, when I started, I met these guys. I played for years in wedding bands and bar bands, and I met these guys in about 2007, something like that. And when I went in the bar, I realized there was a lot of there's an undercurrent, there's people that weren't there for the music. And so I kept putting out positive message songs. And I think it drove a lot of them away. They didn't want to hear it. They're like,
Yeah.
No, I'm not staying here. That guy's talking about having a good time and lay your burden down. Because I used to do a song called All About Good Times, and I wrote it kind of like for where the bar I was at. And I said, well, we can't do that, though. We got to do this other song here because it looks like somebody's still got some worries on their mind. You got to lay that burden down and let them sweep it up in the morning. And then we do that song, and then we get everybody into it. And through the years, I continue to do that. And that's the way I like to do my songs.
Good philosophy. Do us a second song, would you?
Okay. And this song, this came about 5 years ago. I was at the open mic at the Crow's Nest in
Crow's Nest is a great bar in the Cincinnati area, right?
Yes.
On the west side of town.
Right. And as I was sitting there playing in an open doorway in October, this cold wind's blowing in. I started sweating like crazy as I'm playing my song, and I told Sean, something's wrong. We gotta finish this. And so they figured out that I was having a heart attack.
Oh my God!
So we had to go to the hospital that night right away, right from the open mic. I got in the car and went up, and
did a song come out of that?
Oh yes,
Yeah,
and
called
that's this
Open
song
Heart.
right here.
Yeah, it was called Open Heart.
Yeah, open mic, open heart.
Because while I was hanging out there, I got to know a lot of the nurses, and they were some of them came up to the bar to hear us.
Nice.
And so I wrote them a song, and it goes like this. It's called "Cheer Up, Cheer Up. Here Come the Nurses."
Nice.
It goes a little bit like this. Well, cheer up, here comes the nurses. Beer up, here comes the nurses. Don't know where they get them, but I like their shoes. They're not a lot of tools, they're not afraid to use. So if you want to bitch and moan and be a prick, they got a catheter they can shove in, quick or slow. Cheer up, here comes the nurses. Beer up, here comes the nurses. Set 'em up, here comes the nurses. And what's worse is, they're ready to knock 'em down. Dance around like downtown Brown. Get shots in the belly like Ann and Kate. Cheer up, here comes the nurses. Well, you might think that you're a funny man, but you'll look even funnier sitting on a bedpan. You really want them to think the best of ya, 'cause they all know how to give a high colonic enema. It's true. Just when you're getting all ornery and mean, they pull out the biggest dang needle that you ever seen. So you really want them to think the best of you, 'cause they all know how to give that high colonic enema. Cheer up, here comes the nurses. Beer up, here comes the nurses. Sit 'em up, here comes the nurses. And what's worse is they're ready to knock 'em down, dance around like downtown Brown, get shots in the belly like Ann and Kelly. Cheer up, here comes the nurses, because they're ready to knock 'em down, dance around like downtown Brown, get shots in the belly like Ann and Kelly. Cheer up, here comes the nurses.
Yeah.
And we're
Easy
glad
Tom
you're
Eby
okay.
and Steve Meyer on harmonica. Casey Campbell on the washboard over here as well.
There you go.
Yeah, Casey.
All right, would you take us out on Irene Goodnight? And Jerry Springer will jump in on a verse.
You've been listening to Tales, Tunes, and Tomfoolery, recorded live at the Folk School Coffee Parlor in Ludlow, Kentucky. Thanks to Patrick Kennedy for writing our opening song, and to you for listening. Check out our website at jerryspringer.com.
See you in my dreams. Last Saturday night I got married. Me and my wife settled down. Now me and my wife are parted. I'm gonna take another stroll downtown. Irene, good night. Irene, good night. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll see you in my dreams.
Oh, sometimes I live in the country, and sometimes I live in town. Sometimes I take a great notion to jump in the river and drown.
Everybody.
Irene, good night. Irene, good night. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll